My friend, the Philadelphia Eagles bet high, very high, on a prospect who should be setting training camp on fire at this very moment. The franchise spent one of the most valuable chips a team has to spend, a pick right at the top of the draft, on a young talent who arrived surrounded by expectation, the kind that makes a fan dream of spectacular plays in his very first year. Everybody expected to see this kid shine, dazzle, show right off the bat why it was worth spending so much on him. But a whole week of practices went by, and exactly the opposite of what was imagined happened. Instead of glowing headlines, what you hear about this player is an uncomfortable silence. And when the first reports from the journalists who follow the team closely started to come out, they didn't bring gushing praise. They brought concern. An analysis that lit a yellow light right in the middle of the party and left a lot of people scratching their heads, wondering whether this million-dollar bet is really going to work out. The truth is that this story touches directly on the future of the Eagles' offense this season. And it's about that early warning that we need to talk today with real honesty. If you're a die-hard Eagles fan, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel, because understanding this concerning start is understanding one of the biggest question marks of the entire preseason in Philadelphia. This isn't about condemning anyone, quite the opposite. But ignoring the sign doesn't help either. Let me show you exactly who this player is and why these first reports set off the alarm. Let's set the scene. Philadelphia's offense is going through a true overhaul this offseason, and naturally, it's living the growing pains typical of a team that changed a lot all at once. In the middle of this rebuild, a few names have already stood out in the first practices and drawn attention on the positive side, as was to be expected from Devonta Smith and the newly arrived Dontavion Wicks, that receiver who came over in a trade and is already showing his worth. But there was one name, perhaps the most anticipated of all, that almost nobody was talking about. A first-round rookie who was supposed to be the crown jewel of this new offensive era, and who, nevertheless, started to go unnoticed in a way nobody wanted to see. This player's name is Mai Lemon. Mai Lemon, the jewel the Eagles selected with the 20th overall pick of the draft, had a start to training camp that was far too quiet for the fanbase's taste, and that didn't slip past the attentive eyes of the specialized press. The respected Brandon Lee Gowton of the Bleeding Green Nation site, one of the most reliable sources when it comes to the Eagles' day-to-day, published on August 1st an observation that landed like a bucket of cold water. He was direct in saying that, up to that moment, he still hadn't seen any surprise factor, any of that wow from Lemon in practices. And he went further. Gowton described a specific play that set off the alarm. On a ball thrown deep, Lemon didn't look fast at all, and the pass ended up landing in front of him. The journalist even pondered that he couldn't say whether that was an overthrow by the quarterback or whether Lemon himself simply didn't get to the spot where Jalen Hurts expected him to be. Whatever the explanation, the image that stuck wasn't the best. A first-round rookie who can't reach the ball on a speed play does, yes, light up a warning sign, especially when the teammates around him are already shining. And here enters a detail that helps explain, but doesn't eliminate, the concern. Lemon didn't have an ideal preparation to arrive at camp sharp. He missed a good chunk of spring practices and minicamp because of a muscle problem in the back of the thigh, the famous hamstring strain. In other words, he arrived behind schedule, without the same field time the others had to build chemistry with Hurts and absorb the new system. That explains part of the slowness to get going. But, at the same time, for a player who was drafted so high, this lack of shine in the first week is still a bit disappointing. And that's why Gowton's analysis was so pointed. He stated that, deep down, the Eagles are putting Lemon in a pretty tough spot for a rookie. The franchise really needs him to be ready to contribute in a significant way already in his debut year, and not 2 or 3 seasons from now. And the journalist was honest in saying that, up to that point, he didn't feel at all secure about Lemon's chances of meeting that demand so soon. He made a point of adding, of course, that there's still plenty of time for that to change before the first week of the season. But the general tone was one of caution, not excitement. And why is the pressure on this kid so big? Because the context leaves no escape. The Eagles didn't pick Lemon to be a long-term project, a luxury stashed away for the future. They picked him to be an important piece now, immediately. The franchise carried out a deep overhaul of the offense, bringing in a new offensive coordinator to reshape the whole system, and, above all, cutting ties with the star A.J. Brown, that receiver who was an all-pro and pulled a huge slice of the targets. With Brown's departure, a gigantic production void opened up that someone needs to fill. and the Eagles bet precisely on Lemon to help plug that hole. Do you see the size of the responsibility that fell into the lap of this young man of just 22 years old? He doesn't have the luxury of maturing calmly on the bench. The team needs him on the field, producing, from the very first Sunday. And it's that urgency that turns a quieter start to camp into a reason for real concern, and not just an unimportant detail. But before any rushed judgment, we need to look at this kid's path, because it tells a story of steady growth. Lemon just wrapped up a 3-year run at the University of Southern California, the famous USC. And the beautiful part is seeing his evolution year after year. As a freshman, he barely showed up, playing in just 9 games, and registering a modest 6 receptions for 88 yards, with no touchdowns. It was a timid start. Then in the following season, in 2024, he took a leap, playing in 12 games, starting in half of them, and reaching 52 receptions for 764 yards and 3 touchdowns. But it was in his 3rd and final year in college that the explosion really happened. Starting in almost every game, Lemon nailed down his first-round status by piling up an impressive 1,156 yards and 11 touchdowns in a single season, being recognized as one of the best receivers in all of college football. In other words, the talent exists, and it exists in spades. The question was never ability. The question is time, rhythm, and adaptation to a much tougher and faster level. It's the old story of the jump from college to the pro league. Faster defenders, more complex schemes, and a margin for error that practically doesn't exist. Many college stars take a few months to get going in this new world, and there's nothing to suggest it'll be any different with Lemon. Now, to be fair and transparent, we need to present the other side of this story, because it would be very unfair to bury a rookie after just 1 week. First, we're talking about a tiny sample, the first days of a camp that's still going to last for weeks. It's far too early, really early, to draw any definitive conclusion about his future. Second, that hamstring strain cost Lemon precious preparation time, so it's natural that he's a few steps behind his teammates in chemistry. He's not bad, he's behind, and that's very different. Third, as respected as Brandon Lee Gowton is, that was the read of one observer over a handful of practices, and the famous eye test doesn't always tell the complete story of a player who's still adjusting. And fourth, it's worth remembering his resume. A kid who put up more than 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns in the elite of college football clearly knows how to play ball. Talent doesn't evaporate from one moment to the next. And, as the journalist himself admitted, there's plenty of time for Lemon to turn this around before the season really begins. So now I turn it over to you, the one who truly understands this team. After hearing about this concerning start, are you confident that Mai Lemon is going to overcome the delay caused by the injury and break out in time to help the Eagles right out of the gate? Or do you think the fan base should hold back the anxiety and give the kid more time? Do you believe it was too risky for the Eagles to cut A.J. Brown while betting that a rookie would take over that space so soon? Or do you trust that Lemon's talent speaks louder? And tell me one thing, by the first week of the season, do you bet that Lemon becomes an immediate starter or begins the season in a more reserved role? Drop your opinion down here in the comments, because I read every single one of them. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to follow closely the development of every Eagles rookie heading into the season. And I'll be back later to update you with the latest news out of Philadelphia.